Hi there, welcome back. Welcome back to my channel, a little bit about everything. This video is going to be about getting familiar with the 1632 SuperMax drum sander. I've been tinkering with it before I actually share the process of going through the initial getting familiar with it procedure, right? So if you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe, and let's get into the video. So in starting, you need a piece of lumber. Okay, you got to know the thickness of this lumber, and I'm using a 1-inch thick piece of cedar. That's what I'm using. Length should be at least 10 inches, you know, so you can get it underneath the drum with ease. Okay, and from here, this unit is your DRO. Okay, in this instance it's already on. Comes in a box. Okay, abrasive wraps, pre-cut SuperMax, factory tapered abrasives, right? And here's your grit that fits 16 sanders, right? 16-inch, that's the length of the drum, and it's a grit. There's four per box, and these are the available grits. Okay, you got 36, 60, 80, 100, 120, 150, 180, and 220. They provide that many grits, and it's not saying that you can't get 360 from somewhere else, but this is what these guys recommend. The SuperMax people. Okay? So now I'm going to take you over to the side of the drum so you can see. Okay. So here we are looking at the side of the drum, and if I spin it around, I come up to this clip, and this clip I can open it and close it. And if you look in here, you can see that's the spring, but there are I don't know if you can get it. See in there. See that opening and closing? Well, on the end of this piece here, where it actually grabs onto it, there's little teeth. It almost looks like this, right? And it's there to help you grip the paper. Okay, so you start on this end of the roll. Okay, and I'm reading 163 at the moment. Okay, well, when you first start out, what you want to do is, this button here, or this crank, can only be activated in one of these slots. There are 4 slots going around this nut. See? So you can in any position you want, you can activate this, right? So now I'm actually disengage the nut. So it's not a screw that's lifting and lowering the drum. I can lower it with the handle. And you want to lower it till it just touches the paper. But you would be doing this with a sandpaper in it. So, because what you want to know is the you want to know how much that paper is thick, so you know the exact measurement on your DRO. So let's raise this, and now we can lock it so it doesn't go anywhere. And we're going to put the paper on the drum, and it comes in a box. Okay, abrasive wraps, pre-cut SuperMax, factory tapered abrasives, right? And here's your grit. That fits 16 sanders, right? 16 inch. That's the length of the drum, and it's a grit. There's four per box, and these are the available grits. Okay, you got 36, 60, 80, 100, 120, 150, 180, and 220. They provide that many grits. And it's not saying that you can't get 360 from somewhere else, but this is what these guys recommend. The SuperMax people. Okay? So now I'm going to take you over to the side of the drum so you can see. Okay, so here we are looking at the side of the drum, and if I spin it around, I come up to this clip, and this clip I can open it and close it. And if you look in here, you can see that's the spring, but there are I don't know if you can get it to see in there. See that opening and closing? Well, on the end of this piece here, where it actually grabs onto it, there's there's little teeth. It almost looks like this, right? And it's there to help you grip the paper. Okay, so you start on this end of the roll. So I'm going to try to give you a view of that tensioner. If you look, there's a pin right there on the left side at the edge of the mirror there. Okay, that's where your paper goes in. And if you look on the other side over here, on the right side, you're going to see another hinge. So that hinge hinges the whole clamping mechanism, and it's under tension with a spring. So it's continuously pulling on that piece of paper. Now the tricky part is to get that paper in there. Sorry about the glare. Is to get that paper in there in the right slot. So if you have a mirror, or if you can line it up from the top here, if you look at it, like you can see there. So now that I'm at this point, and you want to make sure that it's free of any kind of debris, right? So now you bring it over, make sure that's flat up against there, and that's just snug up against it, and you start rolling your paper on the drum. Till you reach the end. So I'm going to try to give you a view of that tensioner. If you look, there's a pin right there on the left side at the edge of the mirror there. Okay, that's where your paper goes in. And if you look on the other side over here, on the right side, you're going to see another hinge. So that hinge hinges the whole clamping mechanism, and it's under tension with a spring. So it's continuously pulling on that piece of paper. Now the tricky part is to get that paper in there. Sorry about the glare. Is to get that paper in there in the right slot. So if you have a mirror, or if you can line it up from the top here, if you look at it, like you can see there on the inner edge here, that's part of the clip, and the other clip's on the other side of that paper, and that's the screw that holds in the tensioner. Okay, so now if you want to adjust your DRO, okay, you want it zeroed out, right? Well, first of all, let's bring you over there. Okay, so I'm reading, there's absolute and incremental. Incremental tells you how much lumber you're removing, how much material, and absolute gives you the actual thickness of your material. Okay, and as I previously measured, my test piece is 1 inch. I got 1 inch thickness on this piece. Now if you want to be more precise, let's take a look at not the fractional section, that's in millimeters here. So this is in thousandths of an inch. This piece is 1 inch and 6/1000ths of an inch, which is more precise than any woodworker is going to ever need, right? If it was metal, it's a different story. Alright, so this is 1 inch. But before I go there, I want to set this to 0. So if I hold the calibration, right, and you have to be in absolute, okay? So if I press this, I turned it off. If I keep it pressed a few seconds, this is flashing and it's zeroed my screen. Well, this isn't set to 0 yet. So to set it to 0, I'm just going to unlock my feed screw and bring the lever down. Oh, I'm pressing up against the okay. And unlock the screw and then press down on the lever. Now at a certain point, I'm going to be bumping into these rollers. These keep tension on the piece, so there's always friction between the piece and the table. Okay, and this table's a sandpaper. So if you look at this, see, I can lift it up. It's under tension. So I got to overcome these tensions to bring this roll in contact with the table till I feel friction. So now that I'm close, I'm just going to lock up the feed screw and see, I'm already fighting tension, but I'm not there yet. See, I made contact. Just gonna give it a little more, and then I can't move it. So I'm gonna start going up on it. There, I'm free. So this is 0. So I come over here, and I keep it pressed. It's blinking and I've zeroed, so now I have to press it again. So I'm in absolute mood, absolute mode in inches. Okay, so I'm going to bring this up till I hit 1 with either the lever and the screw. So I go here, I've unlocked it, bring it up, and I've overshot it a little bit. Okay, there I'm just under. So I'm going to lock this again. Okay, and then turn the crank till I hit 1. Every turn of the crank should be 1/64th, but I found that it's not quite. That's just an average. Oh, I've overshot it by 5 thousandths, which once again is more precise than we need, but it can read it. Okay, so I'm at 1. So now I'm going to get my piece of lumber underneath my drum. Okay, so now that this is set to 1, I can lift up this tensioner. So I'm going to go on the inside here and actually slide my piece of lumber in there. And I've made contact with the drum. And if you look here, I can just spin it. So it would be removing material. So that 1 reading is correct. So this thing is reading okay. Now I'm going to take it over to the outside. This thing has to be parallel to the table for it to to be okay. So I may have to adjust it. So I lift up the tensioner in front and bring this over here, lift it up again, and then put it underneath. Now, as I spin this, that sandpaper is barely touching. So this table has to be raised a little bit. Okay? So to do that, you have to come over here and you loosen off these 4 screws and you adjust the height with this nut. Loosen these off. And tighten this time. So tighten. In tightening, I'm bringing that down again. I'm just going to slide this in here. It's not rubbing on the inside. On the other side neither. Because I have another adjustment on this lever over here. Okay, if you bring it down, it lifts the end of your table 3/1000ths of an inch, or just a little bit. Because if you're putting in something that's 32 inches wide, you've done one side, you flip it over, and you run it in again, what happens is you might see an edge of sandpaper unless it's slightly higher. So when you're doing a longer piece you actually want to shift that lever down. Right? And just by pushing it over, it's a little hard to do, but there. By pushing it down, you've heightened the outer end of this roller. And if you bring it up again, you should be level. You should have two parallel surfaces. So now I've activated the lever. Okay, it's pushed down. And that's the taper lever. And if I go on the inside, that's wedged in there. So now you hear it rubbing on the inside, but if you go over here, you don't hear it rubbing. It raised it by 3/1000ths of an inch, and that's what you want. I'm just going to go back here and raise that lever up. So now it should rub all the way across. From here, I don't hear it here, I hear it here. I don't hear it there. But I'm 2 thou over, so I'm going to bring it down again. There, it's at 1. I'm going to try it this side. That's in there tight. How about I raise it a bit? Okay, it's just rubbing there, and it should do the same thing on this end, which it does. So you have to adjust your zero every time you shift up the lever to do a 32 wide or something wider than the drum. Okay? You're always going to be putting a slight taper to your piece so you don't get a ridge in the middle. These two nuts or cap screws, this one and the other one on the other side right here, shouldn't be super tight. They should only be up against the crushed or the lock washer slightly, so that way this doesn't have to work as hard to actually get that offset. And what the offset is it's raising that side of the table a little bit. And it does that because this rod, it does that because this rod over here on the tip of my finger has a flat spot on it. So it raises up by a minute amount. So it tips the whole table like that. Now, once a month, or depending on the use, you got to remove this table and lubricate these bushings on all sides, front and back, with dry lube. They must mean silicone lube spray or something of the sort. Okay, that's a dry lube. And to adjust this conveyor. Okay, if it starts pulling to that side, you tighten up that nut 1/4 turn. If it's pulling to this side, you tighten that side 1/4 turn and loosen up that side 1/4 turn, and vice versa, right? But first, you set the tension so that you can't get any slippage by hand, right? I can't make this paper slip on those rollers. You don't want to twist the rollers or bend the rollers with too much tension, because that can happen. You just want to get enough tension so that the paper doesn't slip. Okay, and once that's done, you turn it on, fast speed. You turn your knob to fastest feed rate you can get. And whichever side it tracks on, if it tracked on that side, tighten 1/4 there, loosen there. If it's too tight, if it tracks this way, tighten this side and loosen that side 1/4. And then you re-tighten your fasteners. And actually, I think it's only these 2 fasteners here on either side. The other ones in the back are fixed. Okay? Okay, there's a final adjustment I never said anything about. And it's these screws here. Okay? You got 4 screws. Here, here. And on the back, one there and one there. And what they are for, if you look down here, you see it there and there. If I loosen those off, this carriage is fixed. Those 2 rollers on either side that help keep pressure on that piece, so it's up against the table and doesn't slip. The only adjustment is here. You can raise or lower these rollers. Okay? So what you do is, for the proper adjustment, loosen all 4 bolts. Lower your drum up against the table. Then 3 cranks. 1, 2, 3. That's 3/16 of an inch. Retighten those screws. And that's it. Now, the tension is set with those 2 screws. The one there and the one there. On both sides. One there and one there. And you can adjust the tension with which that roller is pressing down. You don't want any slippage of that piece of wood. If it loses contact with this, it's going to toss it out the back. And if there's somebody standing there, they're not going to be happy. So don't do that. I have a piece of maple here. It's not the prettiest piece, but it's already been milled down to 1 inch. So I'm going to take, I got 2 rough blocks, shorter and longer one, made out of cedar, and they're rough. I'm going to try the 80 grit in that, and these 2 as well, and then try a finish pass with the 150. Okay? Now, what are we going to be looking for? We're going to be looking for the scratches on the finished product. See, this turns in that direction, so there should be scratches that way. But since it's wrapped like at an angle, it's also should be sending scratches down the other way. So the scratches shouldn't be coming straight up and down. So you got to play with the feeds and speeds to get a right pattern, right? So I'm going to try to get the best results I can. I got my 80 grit here. So we're going to start with it. And like in the procedures before, these rolls are almost 8 feet long. Okay, so nothing's on. You unplug your machine to make sure, and you want to feed your machine with 120 or 110 with a capability of 20 amps, because this thing can actually draw a lot of current, and you don't want that thing to stall midway, right? There's an IntelliSand, right? When the load gets too high, there's a red light that comes on here, and it actually slows down the feed. That'll give you a bad finish, right, if that happens. So then you sort of have to repass it, but don't touch the height. Okay? So we're going to remove this paper, which is the 150. And we're going to set up this one. And it is, yeah, this is the way it goes in. So we just high pressure there, make sure we're in the right slot. And you're allowed to go the thickness of the paper, right? So if I measure with a caliper the thickness of the paper, I got 3/1000ths of an inch, or 30/1000ths. That is 30/1000ths thick. Okay, so if I'm at 1, I'm going to check the thickness of this piece right here, which is the this is the cedar. I have 1 1/1000th of an inch. Okay, and 5/10. Well, it's a little bit overboard, but, and this maple is just underneath at 991 thousandths. Okay, it's just under 1 by 9/1000ths of an inch. So now I can take up to 3 thou off, and I still have to go more if I want to hit that maple measurement. So I can go 3. I'm going to try, since this is soft lumber, I'm going to try 97 thou. So I'm going to go under. Okay, that's 98. 97. Okay, and this is heavy grit. I can probably go heavier on that if I want. And now we're just going to set up the dust collector. I gotta find a better way to have that on there. Safety, eye protection. Eye protection, plug the machine up. can see the lines in it, so that's a rougher grit. It's 80 grit, right? I'm going to try it going sideways a bit. And that didn't seem to help. Now the lines are going across this way. So anyways, that's it for the cedar. I'm going to try the maple now. Same thing, I'm getting green and going this way, right? The finish on it. If you can see that from there. And the IntelliSand came on, so that was a big load for the sander. Okay, so before removing this paper, this seems to get an oscillation, right? With the lid open, and if you shut the lid, it's fine. So I really don't know what's going on with that. But you want to clean up this piece, right? So it seems if you hold the lid, you can get the oscillation to go away. There's something that's just not bang on with this. So it's cleaned it up, and now it's left a little debris. So you want to clean that up with a brush or something, right? See that oscillation building up? I can't see that it's the paper, and I can't see that it's not. It's just funny it does that. So let's remove this paper and put the finer grit in there. There, it's on the tensioner. Now you have to readjust the height. Switch this over. Bring this down again. And it's got to be touching, which it is. Open this, make it, bring it up again. Not enough. Bring it down again. Now it's grabbing too hard. This is way smoother, but there are still micro lines, right? So the 220 might get rid of that. So let's see what it does on the maple. you can still see some micro scratches, right? But it is way better. I don't know what it would look like if it was stained like that. But I can see the micro lines, but they're all in the same direction. So, conclusion. The 1632 SuperMax drum sander. Like I said earlier, I'm not getting the same results from the 150 grit on the orbital sander that I'm getting on the drum sander. I'm seeing lines going straight down the piece of lumber, okay? It doesn't matter which way I orient the piece inside the drum sander, I'm seeing lines going straight down. Now, there might be a point at which there's a good enough result. You won't get the same result as the orbital sander no matter what. If I put a 220 in the orbital sander and 220 inside that drum sander, the orbital sander is going to win. No problem. But, like I said, if I can get a good enough result, the drum sander is faster. And time is money. So, and I'm not sure how long a paper is going to last in there. I'll put a 150 grit inside the orbital on the orbital sander, and I'll go, or no, I should say more like four to be honest, 4 to 5 chairs completely sanded. Now that might do more. It won't be the same quality though, but it does it faster. And I'm still not knocking it. I want to see what that 220 grits is going to do. I ordered some 180 and some 220, so that's in an upcoming video. So if you want to see the results, you're going to have to tune in for the next one. So hit the like button, don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.